she wanted. Carly also didn't know Rocket Mortgage charged her over $5,000 to lower her rate. I explained why I thought it wasn't in her financial best interest to buy down the rate, and that's why Team Hochberg, not Rocket Mortgage, will be helping Carly with her mortgage. Let's review. Rocket Mortgage placed Carly into a loan she didn't want and didn't understand why Rocket charged her to secure a lower rate. If you want to work with a lender you can trust, give us a call now at 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. 855-563-2843 or visit our website 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, MLS 1124061.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hey, everybody. Oh, man. It's weeks like this where I go, geez, what day are we on? There's really just nonstop news and madness and all the things, and I'm glad that you have joined us, that you're tuning in. I hope that you'll stay for the whole show because we have a lot lined up, including just in a few moments we're going to talk to Hal Sparks, who's going to be at Max and Benny's this Sunday, Saturday. He's going to be at Max and Benny's on Saturday. Thank you to Max and Benny's for making that event possible, and of course to Hal for coming into town and hanging out with us here in Chicago. So Hal Sparks will be on in about 10 minutes, and then we're going to talk to our friends from the Illinois Park and Recreation Association. We're going to talk to Suzi Wirtz, who is the marketing director. She's the executive director, and she'll be joined by their marketing director, Heather, as well. So we want to talk about Unplug Illinois Day. And look, your radio, you can put it on batteries. You don't have to unplug your radio, and you have to turn it off. You can take it to where you're going to unplug for other things, is all I'm saying. But we're going to talk about Unplug Illinois Day, which is this Saturday. We're going to talk to our friend Ellie Krug, who is the illegal trans host on KTNF AM 950. And then at 6:30, we will talk to Dr. Suzana Flores, who is a mental health expert, as well as Ford Miller, who is a legal expert. Dr. Flores has been working with a lot of federal workers and veterans who are going through the massive changes at the federal level and how they're dealing with it. And Ford Miller is going to talk to us about the Supreme Court decision earlier this week that allows the federal government, that allows the Trump administration to create these mass firing situations and basically reshape the entire government. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little bit all over the place because there are so many things happening in so many different areas. For me, I think one of the how do I put this? The top lines, right? The headlines that hit me the hardest are going to be people who are being kidnapped off the streets, the military presence in places like Los Angeles and presumably soon to be coming to Chicago. Because just yesterday, at the Puerto Rican, the National Museum of Puerto Rico, ICE agents showed up, and I'm stumbling over this. I'm being clumsy with it. I'll be honest, because I had just said to our guest co-host yesterday, Jaime de Leon, that it seemed to me that my Puerto Rican friends were not as invested. And I get it, because Puerto Ricans have a different legal status than people who immigrated here, whose families are from Mexico, from Latin America. But yesterday, Homeland Security was swarming the parking lot of Chicago's National Museum of Puerto Rican Arts and Culture. And they were in the parking lot. They were driving around. And essentially, they were telling the people that worked at the museum, we just wanted to see where your entrances and exits were. One agent did ask to enter the museum to use the bathroom, and he was let in. But after he left, the people working at the museum, he went in to read all of the flyers about upcoming festivals. And the agents were aggressive with the people who worked at the museum. They were not in marked clothing, admitted they were with DHS, but did not say why they were there. So there is footage of the agents swarming the museum and entering the building. And I guess they're like, well, it's some brown people that speak Spanish, so we may as well go there. And the reason I'm kind of struggling with my thoughts on this is because after this happened, I received an email from a friend who's an artist, and she's Puerto Rican, and she's scared. She's scared that if she promotes an event that draws an audience, is she setting people up to be kidnapped by people who are LARPing as ICE agents, people wearing masks, not having warrants, not identifying themselves. It is scary that she is worried about her livelihood, about her art. And this is something that is just hitting me particularly hard today, that my friends, that people in my community are scared. I am worried. Look, I get threats online. I get people calling me names saying, that my status could be revoked. They're like, you go back where you came from, which, by the way, Henry, I was born in Chicago in a hospital in Lakeview. And I tell people, like, my grandparents are from Ireland. My great-grandparents are from Ireland. I'm not all my great-grandparents. My grandparents, my mother, are from Mexico. And so I've felt this momentum, this anti-Latino momentum, grow steadily since the early 2000s, since the Bush administration. I used to make jokes about how when I was in Birmingham, Alabama in 2005, they were just opening a Homeland Security office there when I came in to do shows there. And I was like, I'm Irish and Mexican. You guys didn't have to overreact like that. But it really has spread. It's taken hold throughout the country, this mania of people who speak Spanish, who have Latino surnames that look Latino, that we are less, that we somehow don't deserve the not just the respect and the dignity of being treated like human beings, but even our Constitution lays out the process by which all people who are in the United States are owed due process. I don't understand why we are having this argument that all of a sudden the 5th and 14th Amendments don't apply to all people that are inside the United States. And the idea that, well, if you came here illegally, you don't get due process. How do you know that someone came here illegally unless you give them due process? You're making an assumption, and that's the whole point of having a legal system, of having laws, right? All the people about law and order, you didn't mean it. You meant that you wanted to be able to target people and to punish them because you don't like that they are here, that they are your neighbors, that they are the people that are working. And look, we've talked a lot about how so much of this erupted when corporations started hiring undocumented workers. I mean, look, I didn't do well at economics, but there is a supply and demand thing. The supply would not be here of workers coming into the United States if there wasn't a demand. And by the way, I know I need to correct myself. The fact of the matter is, the people that are here from other countries, whether it is from Spanish-speaking countries, whether it's from Ireland, whether it's Russia, wherever in the world people are coming here for whatever reasons, they're human. We are human beings in this country. Whatever, we kind of rack things up to like, oh, well, they're picking your vegetables, or they're cleaning your hotel rooms, or serving you food, and we are mothers and fathers and children. We're grandmothers. We are. We are human beings who are here, and part of that was for a promise of a better life. And yes, a lot of people were invited here for the sheer point of having a good job that would pay money that either families could send back to their families in another country, or to create a life here and build a future for themselves and their families. And so I'm struggling with a lot of emotions because I'm really just still grappling with what's happened in the last week in the fallout from this this big nasty bill that now some Republicans are realizing that maybe it wasn't the right choice. And but when you look at so many elements of this, how many people it's going to hurt, and it was done before, right? Part of why MAGA is so excited about this bill and cutting people off of Medicaid is because they believe that there are people who don't deserve it, who are scamming the system. And look, are there either one of those? But why are you more mad at the people who are trying to feed themselves and their family and get health care so that they are safe in their communities, rather than the fact that corporations have completely sucked the wealth out of this country, that the billionaires voters are the ones that are truly getting the wealth from this country, whether it's through tax breaks or the white-collar crimes that they commit, whether it's wage theft. I mean, just the levels of crime that corporations commit compared to the crimes that you imagine other people are committing. And believe me, I have told you before, I am a survivor of violent crime, both my family, myself, and by the way, all of it committed by straight white dudes. But I mean, if you really wanted to cut down on crime, why don't we deport a lot of white dudes? Sorry, Henry, just saying. Did they wear their masks? I don't know that they were in the camera angle that I have. It does not look like the ones inside the building are wearing their masks. And I wonder if they were asked at the. We're talking about the agents, the Department of Homeland Security agents that showed up at the Chicago Puerto Rican Arts and Culture Museum were wearing masks because they weren't there to kidnap people. They were there to scout, and maybe they didn't feel that they needed to hide their identities as much. You know how you stop fascism? Show up the first Tuesday of November and quit bitching for 4 years after that. What does that mean? I did show up to vote, and it's part of why I do get to keep bitching. It's actually I mean, were any voters for Trump during the Biden administration? Did y'all shut up? Because I'm pretty sure I saw a lot of noise. Okay. I don't think it. Okay. At any rate, you know what? Let's go ahead and take a break here. I know it's a little bit early, but I know we got Hal Sparks coming on, and he, of course, always has a lot to say. We want to thank our sponsors for making this show possible and all of these conversations, which we enjoy with you. We want to thank our friends at Source Solar. Go to source.solar and make an appointment. Maybe it's time for you to get a solar panel on your house or your business and join thousands of customers in the Chicagoland area who are happy with their services. We also want to thank Kirk Bankstead. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com or follow his adventures on Facebook. You can also subscribe to his Substack where you'll see my articles and essays every single week. We also want to thank our friends at Pride Coffee Roasters. Go to pridecoffeeroasters.com and find out about all the great coffees that they have. They also have some fun swag there too, some stickers, and you can find out more about the incredible flavors they have on their coffee beans. And thank you for your support. We also want to thank our friends at Kids Above All. Go to kidsaboveall.org and support their mission to help children live happy, healthy, safe lives. Let's give a call to Hal Sparks after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 in Seattle, Washington. Thank you so much for joining us.
The Rick Smith Show.
These are the people that we've handed the keys to the kingdom. These are the people that we've said, go ahead, run the country. So are we surprised when we said that they're going to run it into the ground? No, you could go, Rick, you've been saying this is all planned, and I think it is. I think the chaos is plotted. I think they know as long as there's chaos, we can then do the real goal, which is breaking the federal government and stealing from we the taxpayers.
The Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 7 on WCPT 820.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
You are listening to Driving It Home with me, Patti Vasquez, and joining us is a guy you listen to every Saturday here on WCPT, and he'll be in town this Saturday at Max and Benny's. It's Hal Sparks. Hey, Hal, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm staying hydrated. I try not to dwell on the craziness too much, but I have to talk about it, so there's really no avoiding it, is there?
Well, I insist on dwelling on the craziness. I feel like that's, it's the old, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Keep going,
and
yes.
I don't see us changing that any soon.
No.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm. You know what? So I was thinking about this today. People talk about how Democrats aren't good at messaging, or we don't have a vision, and really, what they're saying is that we're not as masterful at manipulating people through fear and hate. Are we, Hal? Is that what we need to be focusing on more? I don't know.
Yes. Well, I also think that it helps a lot when you're messaging. When you're narrow casting a message, to have very narrow-minded people, and when you're dealing with Democrats, we're so broad-minded and inclusive. that it is harder to shape a message into a very simplistic kind of rubber mallet format. Whereas with Republicans, it's just like those people are bad, and that's it. It's just a varying degree of that. It's like, it's different types of soda. It's sugar water with a different color, right? But that's it.
Yeah, it's totally it. And I also been thinking today, and by that, the idea that Democrats aren't great at messaging or continuing to ring the alarm bell. I don't know if it's going to work every single time. Like there's a clinic in Nebraska that closed even ahead of the big bad bill, the big brutal bill, the big BS bill, whatever we're going to call it. They closed ahead of time saying, look, we already know based on funding cuts that we're already operating within our margins. We're not going to be able to stay open, and they closed. And I don't know if it's calling attention every single time that happens. I don't know what it's going to take. Do you have a vision for this, Hal, going forward?
The reality is that we can message to motivate our own voters, but we're not going to be able to change these folks' minds just by drawing attention to it. As a matter of fact, they will be in such a defensive posture that they'll ignore anything we bring up, even if it's true and it directly affects them. It will not change until they feel the effects. Sadly enough, they've got to go from fa to foe, and they're not going to be able to make that change with any assistance from the outside. They're going to have to wake up themselves, and it's sadly going to happen in the face of things like we've seen in Texas, and the face of things like these hospitals shutting down, or them losing their jobs, or factories closing, and we will have a responsibility after it happens and after they recognize this to try to do a bit of an "I told you so" and make them come around to it. But if we're the ones that point it out first, they will be so defensive about it they'll ignore it.
Yeah, that's true.
They will.
No, that's a great. That's absolutely.
They can't not. Because, again, it is less about Trump and less about MAGA as it is about their own ego. It is very difficult to admit you've been had. And you're asking all these people to admit in public amongst a bunch of other people that they bought this con, hook, line, and sinker, and they were a sucker. That's really difficult for a person's ego. And they already have weak egos to start with.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's why a father figure or whatever the authoritarian figure is so alluring, right? Is that you don't have to think as much. Someone tells you what to think.
Right. Well, and also, again, I feel like Trump isn't really a father figure for them. He's more like a pit bull. They don't care if it shakes the baby as long as it bites the stranger.
Right.
And, they think the chances of him biting the right person is higher than him harming a member of the family, even if that's not the case. And so if he does, they forgive it because they believe the threat outside is so bad. They're so paranoid. And it's interesting, you can look at how they reacted to COVID and this fearful thing outside and their kind of rejection of the reality of it.
Yeah.
Because if they just thought about it logically, it would terrify them, and they would rather reject it outright than deal with that fear. They have to pretend, they have to macho their way through it, and that's kind of why they like Trump as well, is because they think he can bluff his way past the monster. And you just can't sometimes. Sometimes you got to prepare for things. You got to do the hard work, and that's asking too much of them.
Now, I know we make a lot of comparisons with fascism and Nazi Germany and things like that, and I mean, there's a lot of obviously there's so many differences. But one of the things that I sometimes wonder about is how much do you think their ineptness, their stupidity, is going to be a big part of their downfall? First, let me ask that question.
Well, I mean, that is the reality that they have to confront. So when stuff hits the fan and destroys this thought, process that they have, this illusion, this myth they live under, it's going to be because of Trump and his crowd are inept. And in defense of some of the people in his cabinet, there are things that he asks them to do that cannot be done. They are not possible.
Right.
So when he asks them to complete these tasks and they fail, he can blame them, but ultimately it was his fault for asking them to do the impossible.
Right.
That's never going to change. But also, on top of that, people like, Dan Bongholio and Kash Patel and those guys are idiots. They're terrible at this. They have no idea how anything runs. Pete Hegseth is another great example. This is an ineptness, but it's also stacked on top of malice. So there's a maliciousness to them and an ineptitude. Now, granted, I'm a little bit happy they're inept, because if they were that malicious and capable and smart at the same time, we'd be in a lot worse shape than we are even now.
Yes. That part is what I've been thinking about. Mm-hmm. But the other part that I think about is, when you talk about, the cultists, the MAGA, the all in, nothing can shake them. Yeah. Every time we try to point out the truth, they dig in deeper. Is that the Nazis didn't let go either? No. There was. I'll tell you what.
I would argue that the parallels to fascism, we do that largely because of the governmental nature of it, because he is the leader of the country and that kind of stuff, when it really has a lot more in common with Jonestown and Waco as far as the psychology of the people involved. Okay. And there were Nazis that turned. There were Nazis that recognized that they were just, the Nazi Party was overpowering, and if they tried to push back, they would end up dead too, so they went along. There was a lot of that going on. In Waco and in Jonestown, there wasn't. MAGA itself is much more akin to a cult in that mindset, and that's why they dig in and become a bunch of dead enders. The problem they have is this Epstein stuff, because this is something that where they're sort of immune to a BS storyline, because they were told by Trump and those around him that by hook or by crook they were going to get this information, that it was going to be that the elites were going down, and that this sort of remnant, bottom of the barrel QAnon storyline that they've been telling themselves was going to come to a head, and he was going to be the champion that made it happen. And now he has failed on this front on such a massive scale. They are in shock. I've done 2 shows, like 2 days in a row, just looking at short clips, because I couldn't possibly cover them all on my live stream, of MAGA influencer after media person, all the Trump supporters, all of them freaking out, all of them saying the exact same thing, that they were either betrayed or tricked or fooled, or somebody is betraying Trump or tricking him or fooling him, or both. And they are having such a hard time grasping this, because there is no good answer to it. Yeah. There just isn't.
Well, see, that's the part. Like, I've had friends tell me that they've talked to their friends who are really upset about this Epstein no client list, and they're conflicted. They don't understand. I saw Alex Jones absolutely bawling in his car, saying he was going to go vomit, whatever. I don't know what to make of it. I just figure that's going to die down too, and they'll just accept it and move on. It's going to make their brains break. You think?
Some things. Nope, I think this one sticks, because it is something they invested in. We didn't invest them in it. We invested them in the tariff story. So even if the tariffs cost them a bunch of money and make them lose their house, they're still going to buy into it because Trump was for it, and we're the ones who said it was bad. This is different than the Epstein thing, which they were in agreement in their minds with Trump and with Bondi and all these other. They were all invested in, bringing truth, Kash Patel and all these guys. Like, they were invested in this being, all these files coming out without us telling them to. Like, they're not getting anything from our side of the aisle about this that made it a cause celeb for them. They came up with this on their own, and that's what's going to cause it to stick around, because they've gotten so much of their integrity invested into it that they can't just shrug it off. It's too severe. It deals with child sex trafficking, and that is just something you can't blow off like oil prices or tariffs or the Ukraine war.
Now, you're always good at giving advice on how to capitalize on a moment like this. What can we do to amplify that and keep that story forefront, to keep reminding them, or they do it themselves?
One of the things you can do is just to draw attention to them as they say it and how close they're getting, and I think point out to the fact that for some reason they will not let themselves recognize the linkage between Trump and Epstein. 25 years they were friends. You know, Epstein said he was the closest friend Trump has had since Roy Cohn, another dead pedophile that Trump was friends with, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that there are areas where you can poke maggots and it obviously makes an impact. And one of them is that you guys just got to let him get a slide on this, huh? And you don't have to chase it down. Most of the time, I think, because we deal in facts and we deal in reality as best we can, that we try to continue to hammer those things home when this is all based on attitude and paranoia. And if you can just wind them up, they will unwind on their own with this stuff. They just can't not. There is no way out of this. There is no way. They have driven themselves into this cul-de-sac, and they're going to be doing donuts there for the foreseeable future. And if they try to get out, all we have to do is go, wait, I'm sorry, are you done reading all the Epstein files that never came out? Like, that will be enough. Because, again, this isn't oil prices. This isn't tariffs. This isn't even taxes and whether or not people deserve to be on Medicaid or whether illegals are on Medicaid. Like, you can see all the dodges they can put up in that conversation. But this one, there is no exit ramp.
Before I let you go, because I have to run, by the way, we're talking to Hal Sparks, who's going to be at Max and Benny's Restaurant, Deli, and Bakery in Northbrook. You can join him and Johnny Million for a special live broadcast of the Hal Sparks Radio Program from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Again, that's Saturday. For the low cost of $20, go to heartlandsignal.com. Click on the Hal Sparks live event banner at the top of the page. And by the way, tickets are going fast, Hal, so I'm glad you came on the show so we can sell the last few tickets.
Yeah.
But before you go, let me ask you this then. Why did they say there's no client list? Couldn't they have just strung MAGA along like just longer and just because it's been a decade now since we've been talking about this.
It's worse than saying there is no client list. They said there is no incriminating client list, which when you're talking about like parsing words and adding fuel to the fire of a conspiracy, that's glorious. That's magical. I cannot tell you how exciting it is to have them try to parse what Pam Bondi meant by incriminating client list versus client list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's not our problem. You and I don't have that problem. Jeffrey Epstein was a scumbag, and whether Trump participated in the scummiest of stuff that Jeffrey Epstein or not, it's still easy for me to write him off entirely for spending that much time with the dude and being okay with it, right? I don't have that issue, and I don't think you do either. So we don't have to worry about parsing words to clear ourselves of it. And if anybody that I previously supported or whatever ended up being on Epstein's list of people that he, did awful things with, I could say goodbye to those people in a second. I don't care who they are.
Yep.
But maggots can't because it's Trump. And that confrontation is the destruction of their ego. And so that will grind them forever. And so I happen to be, very excited about the idea that just that word shift alone is going to put them in a panic. They've been talking about it for a day and a half already. Incriminating? What do you mean incriminating? What, do you got an innocent client? You can just see them spin up. It's glorious.
Amazing. Okay, before I said that was the last thing, but I do have to do this because I just got a text from a listener that I absolutely love. Hey, Patti Vasquez, this is Auntie Sherry. I would love to purchase 10 tickets for Hal Sparks event Saturday. I want to give the tickets to any one of your callers. I would so much love to attend, but I'm in Vegas and haven't applied for the new fake-ass universal ID required to fly. My big brother from another Mista got me through the first Trump presidency and need so much from another one of Hal's preacherships to get his old Auntie Sherry through. Please give baby brother Hal my love and my token of tickets for him to spread factuality, anecdotes, truth, and joy forthcoming. Love me some KCEP. Tell Hal, listen to him and Johnny Million every Saturday and the rebroadcast on Sundays. Love me some Hal Sparks. So that's Auntie Sherry.
That's amazing. Thank you, Sherry. That's incredible.
So that's a good way to end our conversation. Thank you so much, Hal. I'm going to be I'm going to be at a Dems event in Central Illinois, so I can't come and see you on Saturday morning. But have a great time, and let's make this more regular. Let's at least check in once a month if you can. I
love that idea, right. and the next time I do one of these, you can join me. Okay.
I would love to. Thank you, Hal. Take care. Hal on Saturday. Max and Benny's. All right, take care. Bye. Let's take a break here and find out about Unplug Illinois. More in a moment on WCPT and KKNW.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Partly cloudy skies tonight with a low temperature of 69 degrees and light northeast winds. Thursday, sunny with a high temperature around 78 degrees. On Friday, chance of thunderstorms with a high temperature around 89 degrees. Saturday, chance of thunderstorms with a high temperature of 86. Sunday, sunny with a high temperature around 85. Monday, chance of storms with a high temperature around 88 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 79.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Choose Views with Richard Chew.
And with us is our own state comptroller, Suzana Mendoza.
I went to the Suzi event the other day, and I'm telling this story about how I used to love to play soccer, and it just came out. I'm like, yeah, I used to love kicking balls, and not much has changed these days, right? I'm still kicking balls. And anyway, I shouldn't have said it, but I just said it again. But it was super funny. But the point is, yeah, we're out there working hard, and doing what needs to be done, fighting a good fight.
Richard Chew, weekday mornings at 6 on WCPT 820.
Feeling overwhelmed, kind of like, hey, I can't remember how to relax. Well, you're not alone. Illness, accidents, sheer stress can cause everything from headaches to feeling constantly on edge. If this is you, give Michelle Bobier at Resource Wellness in Wilmette a call. Michelle is a biodynamic craniosacral therapist. She also teaches Qigong, a form of moving meditation. She helps people with post-surgical problems, concussions, migraines, insomnia, the effects of trauma, and more. Michelle helps her clients balance their nervous systems and achieve deep rest that can lead to profound change. As a PTSD survivor herself, she gets it, and she loves helping people back into balance. As one client said, Michelle has been my reset button. So if you need a reset, call Michelle at 773-991-4357 or check her website, resourcewellnessllc.com. 773-991-4357, resourcewellnessllc.com.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's Progressive Talk from TuneIn.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Look, I talk a lot about how I go for walks in the woods. You have got to get outside, and we do need to detach ourselves from constantly checking our phones and needing constant input electronically, which is why I love that the Illinois Park and Recreation Association is celebrating Unplug Illinois Day this Saturday, July 12th. And joining me in studio, our executive director for the Illinois Park and Recreation Association, Suzi Wirtz, and marketing director Heather. Heather, how do I say your last name?
Weishar.
I think I asked you that last time, didn't I? Weishar. Thank you so much for joining us again. I appreciate it. And remind me now, how Suzi, how many years in a row, how long has this program been going on highlighting Unplugged Day?
Yep, this is the seventh annual event. We do couple it with the National Park and Recreation Month. So that was a purposeful decision to kind of bring it to the forefront of people that are aware of Parks and Rec. But yeah, 7 years going strong. It gets bigger and better every year, and that means more people are involved, more people are unplugging.
Well, and I also think, Heather, this is like July 12th is kind of the perfect day. I was just driving by the forest preserves, and there was a sign for back to school event with the forest preserves. I feel like unplugging is also a good way to like slow down a little bit. Summer's getting away from us, right?
Yep. I mean,
summer goes by too fast as it
Oh, my
is,
God.
right? And what a great reminder for kiddos, especially because school starts in the fall. They're going to be tuned in and logged on for the whole school year. So this is a great midpoint of the summer just to remind everybody to take a breather and take a break.
And tell us, Susie, about some of the events you have lined up for this Saturday across the state of Illinois.
Yeah, so we have a lot of different things going on. There's a Splash, Dash, and Pedal Bash at one of our agencies. So across the state of Illinois, I think we have over 80 events or 80 agencies that are involved in this year. There's Family Fun Day out in Lindenhurst, some more field days where, everybody gets together and splashes around and they do their games and whatnot. There was another one we were just looking up. There's yoga in the park.
Oh, nice.
There was, and some of our agencies are partnering with other groups as well, like some other community partners to kind of bring it a little more awareness and offer different things, libraries and things like that. So a wide variety. The agencies are encouraged to do something specific and different on July 12th, but some of it also kind of coincides with programs they're already doing. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, there's so much going on in the summer times, and my favorite memories are of being outside as a kid. I think that's what it should be, don't you think, Heather?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I grew up, you left the house after breakfast and then you had to be home for lunch and then not back in until dinner. So I think that's something that kids really need. And I know one of the reasons why we were drawn into the community that we live in is when we were looking for houses, there were people out and there were people at the parks and just enjoying all of these opportunities that were going to be right in our backyard. And I think that that's really important. It fosters that sense of community and connection that people really need.
I agree, and I think that you hit on something, which is what gets the people out. It's partly those programs, right? Because like there are parks in the neighborhood, and I live very close to the park that I grew up and went to day camp at, and tap dance and gymnastics and all the things, right? But it's the programs, it's the people that work at the parks too. Tell us a little bit about our park districts and recreation in the state of Illinois.
Well, we're so proud of them because those are all of our members. We serve the professionals, we serve the people that work at the parks and parks and rec agencies, and they're professionals. They plan all these things. They go to school to learn how to do that, and we provide advanced learning for them to keep doing these things. Ooh. So they plan anything from summer camps to cooking classes to day camps. I'm trying to think, pools. They have to hire so many part-time people for the summer for their pools, the lifeguards and all that. So they're very tuned into their community. They love their community. We did a survey recently about what drew you to become a Parks and Rec professional. And it was, I want to help people, I love my community, and I love to be outside. And that's really the three nice little triangle there.
Well, I think this is great for folks to keep in mind when they're talking to young people about their future. I mean, like working in the park districts. My ex-boyfriend runs the Champaign Park districts, right? Same thing. He loved the outdoors. He loved to help people, and he now is the Derek Liebert is. I don't know if you guys know Derek, but
I don't know. Yeah, but we'll have to get to know him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tell him I said hi. but he was always, he loved being outdoors. He loved fishing and all that kind of thing. So I mean, have you seen a change in targeting for marketing? Obviously, with so much on social media, what's connecting with folks when it comes to learning about the parks?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because we just kicked off a big initiative to educate young people about the career opportunities in this field. Parks and Recreation and working at a park district or a recreation department or a forest reserve, it's much more than recreation in the typical sense. There are finance people, there are human resource people, there are people that manage the grounds, if that's your calling. So we are trying to draw awareness of all of those opportunities. So if your passion is community, if your passion is helping people and creating these experiences, you can play a part of that in so many different ways in Parks and Rec. Yeah. So it's a really exciting time, I think, to be at this point in just what's happening in the world and trying to identify and work with young folks about what they can do.
It sounds like what you're talking about, both of you are talking about, is being grounded in a community, which is what we kind of all need. And like, the park districts often have sort of the neighborhood groups, like I can't remember, like the PACs, I guess, the folks that invest in the parks too and bring like here in the Chicago Park District, people will bring like movies and, and that kind of thing, right? And farmers markets. Like there's so much that grows out from the park districts.
Yeah, and garden clubs are a big one. Are very
pollinators.
Popular.
That's our friends at JP&A.
Yeah, very popular right now.
I just was at a park district today, River Trails, and they started a rock garden.
Oh, there you go.
So I mean, it's almost like I feel like there's nothing that a Parks and Rec and Park Department doesn't have. You know, there's something for everybody. From the very smallest children to the oldest. People that everybody wants to be around other people, even though they get on their screens a lot. And that's kind of what some of the statistics we wanted to put, we wanted to share with you was just, unfortunately, right? Do you know that it's over 8 hours a day that teenagers are spending? That's on average. And so you're like 8 hours a day. Now they're probably up till 2 a.m, let's face it, right? But I mean, at the same time, the American Academy of Pediatrics says like no kid under 2 should even be on a screen. And how many times do you go to a restaurant and it's like, here's your screen, So some of it's fine. We know that there are positives and pluses for, obviously social media. We do social media, the IPRA, we promote things. But, for one day, really, can you just be in the moment, be outside, grab your friends, be alone, sit by yourself if you want under a tree or whatever.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah, find yourself a good tree. Yeah.
And a lot of these events that are happening on Unplug Illinois Day are free. So you don't necessarily have to pre-register. There's no fee attached to it. You can just show up and participate in your community's event.
Excellent. Let's take a break here. We are in studio with our friends from the Illinois Park and Recreation Association, Executive Director Suzi Wirtz, as well as Marketing Director Heather Weishar.
Close enough. You nailed it.
No.
Weishar.
I was trying to say it really fast, so you wouldn't really see. Suzi didn't notice because I said it so fast. Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT 820. We are talking NKK and W1150. Go find your parks in Seattle, too. We are talking about Unplug Illinois Day, which is this Saturday, July 12th. More after this.
A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Luckily, most of us tend to get sick less often during the summer months. But if you find yourself ill, should you still work out? Now, one expert said to be totally inactive and bedridden, that has a negative impact on your immune system, your energy levels, and your ability to recover. So it's usually beneficial to have some activity, although the appropriate quantity and quality is going to be really important. Conventional wisdom is this: when your symptoms are above the neck, headache, stuffy or runny nose, minor sore throat, it's okay to engage in mild to moderate exercise. If your symptoms are below the neck, think chest congestion or upset stomach, you should probably back off a bit. One thing all the experts seem to agree on: don't exercise if you have a fever. That's a sign that your body is likely fighting off an infection or something viral. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
Whether it's day or night, hot flashes due to menopause can be unpredictable. That's why there's Veoza, a prescription treatment proven to reduce the number and severity of hot flashes day and night that can start working in as early as 1 week. Based on clinical studies measuring efficacy at 4 and 12 weeks, individual results may vary. Talk to your healthcare provider about what this may mean for you. For moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms or hot flashes and night sweats due to menopause, Veoza can cause serious side effects, including liver problems. Your doctor will do blood tests before and during treatment. Stop Veoza and call your doctor if you have symptoms of liver problems, such as feeling more tired than usual, decreased appetite, nausea, vomiting, itching, yellowing of the eyes or skin, pale stool, dark urine, or stomach pain. Don't use Veoza if you have cirrhosis, severe kidney problems, kidney failure, or take CYP1A2 inhibitors. Ask your doctor about Veoza. To learn more, call 1-866-239-1637 or go to Veoza.com. That's VEOZAH.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Union Strong Chicago continues to lead the way with progressive values and in preserving democracy. Your support of the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC efforts in Wisconsin and beyond strengthens the fight against MAGA Republicans. You can now purchase progressive beers like Labor Lager, Love Wins Fruited Sour, and the Resistance IPA in Chicago at Rogers Park Provisions, Diversity Beer, Wine, and Spirits in Lakeview, Park West Liquor, Wine, and Beer in Lincoln Park, Logan Square Liquors, and Tip Top Food and Liquors in Westtown. Visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for all their Chicagoland locations. As always, no matter how bad our sports teams are, please drink responsibly.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. During the break, Auntie Sherry is working through buying tickets for folks for Hal Sparks' event at the Max and Benny's. Again, go to heartlandsignal.com, folks, before Auntie Sherry buys a bunch of these tickets for listeners. And I'm not sure what we're going to... We'll figure it out, but thank you, Auntie Sherry. It's very generous of you. Joining me in studio are our friends from the Illinois... Hold on a second. Now I have to go to all my screens. It's so much information today. I'm really holding on by a thread. I really do need to unplug, and I'm so glad that you guys are here. Our friends from the Illinois Park and Recreation Association, Executive Director Suzi Wirtz and Marketing Director Heather Weishar. And I think I got it right, but we're going to just stumble right through it. So first of all, Heather, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up, my friend?
I'm actually a Michigander. So I grew up in the Detroit area, went to college at Western Michigan University, and just life kind of took me around and settled here, and now
I love Michigan, and yes. I think that Detroit's comeback story is remarkable. I love so much, and a lot of the urban gardening that has kind of emerged and sort of reimagining. Yep, I think Detroit.
Yep, Detroit, and I think Michiganders in general are a gritty, fun, bunch. I think that they have, all of the best qualities of the Midwestern folk, but I'm a little biased.
Sure, that's all right. That's all right. We love our Michigan. And is Western Michigan, is that in Kalamazoo?
Kalamazoo.
I love Kalamazoo.
Yep.
There's a great theater there. I performed there once with the Bob and Tom Comedy All-Stars. It's a really beautiful, kind of older theater.
Okay.
Just really with a lot, one of the, the sort of from the 20s and 30s, from vaudeville and things like that.
Nice.
Just a lot of fun. Yeah.
Cool.
So and so you ended up in Chicago.
Ended up in Chicago. And I found my job here at IPRA when I was in my early 20s.
And you've been there ever since? I don't know how long your 20s were behind you. Don't look that. You're 31? What are you?
You're so kind. But it's a great job, and I absolutely love the work that this association does, and I believe in it. So It's been easy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
She said she likes working with you.
I know.
Suzi?
I'm kind of happy to hear that because I can't get rid of her. She's been here for 23 years.
Come on, really?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
24,
It'll be 24 this year.
Holy cats.
Yeah.
Maybe I should come work there with you guys. It sounds like fun.
She's like our little historical person there. What happened in this date? When was this? What happened here?
Nice.
It's great. Yeah.
Do you do a post like this day in park history?
I should. That would be
a great
fun.
idea.
This day in park. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That would be great. We have a lot of parks to pick from across the state.
Right.
That's fantastic. And Suzi, where did you grow up, my friend?
Chicago area. So opposite of Heather, I've been at IPRA for about a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Totally opposite, which is why I need all of her guidance in history. I now live in LaGrange, Illinois. Grew up my parents lived in the south side of Chicago. That's where I was born. Moved around just to the suburbs a little bit and landed on LaGrange actually because of a park.
Both
to
of
be
you.
honest, because we were at an open house and we were like, let's go look at the park and see what do the people look like? Do they have kids? Are they whatever? And it's the park that we took our kids to then for years and years and years.
And do you remember that day? What was going on at the park? Do you remember?
It was just normal park stuff, like kids on the swings and playing on the slides, and there wasn't an actual activity. But that particular park does have a baseball field and a soccer field and all that. So it was kind of like, yes, I want to live here, and that's actually one of the reasons people do move. I know that the realtors brag about that a lot. Like if there's a park close to your house, the people do actually look for that. So
got one right across the street from me, and with so I have a child with a disability, my younger son, and so he has he's a high risk of they call it elopement, which means leaving the house, and so it was one of those strange things where Steve and I were in the living room and we didn't even know he was able to unlock the doors, and we were in the kitchen, he was in the living room, and And we were so lucky to have the park across the street because it's something he's drawn to. You know what I mean? So like, and one time I was on the road and Steve messaged me. He goes, first of all, Declan's okay. And secondly, he sent me a picture of Declan in his footy pajamas, like in a swing. And it was, we moved there before we even had kids. And it's such a great part of our community. It's a great place to gather. I know we have a movie in the park coming up soon.
Yeah.
So where did you go to high school in Chicago on the south side?
I went to Providence in New Lenox. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And then I ventured out to Iowa for college and then came back.
And what did you study in college?
Marketing and English.
Okay, marketing and English.
Yes,
They go very well together.
I was going to be a teacher, and then, that didn't pay
They went a different direction. And did you study marketing in college as well?
Communications.
Yep. And well, I mean, like, what a fun way to spend your days. Obviously, there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of organizing. But to encourage people to go outside and take advantage of the resources that we pay for, too.
Yes,
that's another thing, right?
Yes, 100%. I mean, these are amenities and resources and experiences that your tax dollars help to pay for. So take advantage of them. A lot of times there are free or low cost events or classes. It's a great way to try out a yoga class. Or there was a park district a couple of years ago, I remember, offering cardio drumming for their seniors. So there really is something for all ages, every interest. Check out your local park and rec agency.
You mentioned your son, and I think one of the big things now is inclusive parks.
It's amazing.
And how amazing, right? I mean, that is just, to me, one of the most fabulous things. And all the new companies, that's what they're building, and that's what they're doing. So, I mean, that's the other thing, like all abilities. We were down in Springfield a few weeks ago for a legislative event, and the lieutenant governor was there, and we started talking to her, and she's like, I love Unplug Illinois Day. And she's like, can you stress that parks are for everyone?
Yeah.
And we're like, yes, that is key, right? I mean, look out your door. There's a park. There's a program for you, for no matter what. So.
I'm going through my phone to pull up a picture because the parks have changed so much, even since we've lived across the street from one.
Yeah.
Like moved away from like the mulch and, a lot of that. And my son used to be able to walk, and like his big thing was this structure at our park district. And then when he lost the ability to walk, he had his walker, and like one of the things that like really got me was that his walker fits on the structure. I mean, like, and he can, like, he's able to climb, he gets to like up the ramp and everything, and he still does a lot of the things that he's always loved doing. So it means a lot.
Yeah.
And that wasn't, if it had been, 20 years ago, the park didn't look like that. And there are parks that have like, the big saucers, like swings and things are so great for sensory and for kids who have different mobility. The swings with like the harness, you guys, across the state of Illinois have done an incredible job. Sorry, I didn't know I was going to get choked up there.
It's true though. I mean, and that's one of the reasons, again, we went back to the community and people that they're just good people that work here.
Yep.
And same with all the IPRA staff too. Those parks are amazing. And one cool thing in Illinois too, there's quite a few grants that are available to the park districts and the agencies that they can get money to fund to create better and bigger parks that are all inclusive and things like that. So yeah, I
want to reiterate something that you both talked about too, is the wide range of programs, including the like aerobic drumming for seniors and cooking classes. Like I said, I took tap dancing when I was a kid. Please, folks, wherever you're listening right now, if you're in Illinois and beyond, reach out to your park districts, find out about their programs. And sometimes like tax assistance for seniors and things like that. So is there anything I've forgotten about Unplugged Day that you want to make sure we talk about?
You can visit unplugillinois.org for a list of all the events that are happening on Saturday. If you're not able to make it out to an event, we just encourage you to turn off your phone, even for a little bit, connect with your loved ones and friends, and hopefully get outside if it's not too hot.
Yep. Get out there. Well,
jump in the pool.
Bring a mister. Bring something to cool yourself off with. By the way, someone just texted me because I was talking about my son. They said walking with a walker is still walking. I understand that, and thank you for clarifying my situation. But I meant walking independently without pain. Right. So it is a significant. I know Henry's shaking his head like, yeah. I know how. Like I'm going to assume they're coming from a good place and correcting the mother mother of a child with a severe disability. My son has a very rare disorder, genetic disorder called Primrose that we just found out. Like he's 20 and like it's so rare. He's only the 53rd person on the planet to be diagnosed with this. So, so we're still learning things. But thank you for the correction, 847. I'm gonna go ahead and assume it was coming from a good place, and I'm gonna show you pictures of my son before you go. So again, it is Unplug Illinois on July 12th, this Saturday, all day, and go to your park district. I'm greedy. I get my park sometimes to myself. It's a really beautiful park, and it really is the hard work that you guys do across like all the people that work with the whole system. So thank you so much for everything that you do. Anything coming up that you want folks to know about that's on the horizon for the Parks and Recreation of Illinois?
Always got a lot going
Is there a
on.
website for folks to like save the date on everything?
So our website is ilipra.org. In addition to the calendar that Heather mentioned, where you can see all the events, we have educational opportunities, a lot more for the people that work for Parks and Rec. But if you're interested in working in Parks and Rec, there is a whole workforce section on the website.
And thank you for all that. Thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having us so much.
And you don't have to wait like a whole year if there's other events coming up.
Yeah, we got some other ideas.
Yeah, excellent. Let me know. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk to our friend Ellie Krug, the host of the Illegal Trans Woman on KTNF AM 950 in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And coming up a little bit later, we're going to talk to legal expert Ford Miller and psychologist extraordinaire Dr. Suzi Flores. More after this on WCPT 820 and KKNW 1150 in Seattle, our alternative talk friends out on the West Coast. More in a moment.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Hospital officials in Gaza say Israeli airstrikes killed at least 40 Palestinians today. Saka Magane reports the strikes came as President Trump pushes for a deal between Israel and Hamas aimed at ending the war.
President Trump is suggesting a Gaza ceasefire agreement could be days away. Or maybe not.
I think we have a chance this week or next week.
But
not definitely. There's nothing definite about war and Gaza.
Administration officials have repeatedly suggested a deal could be reached while Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu is here in Washington and on Capitol Hill.
We have a common strategy.
And Israel has security and other requirements.
President Trump wants a deal, but not at any price. I want a deal, but not at any price.
Netanyahu says he's working with the president to achieve those. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Two U.S. officials tell AP the Trump administration's resumed sending weapons to Ukraine that had been paused last week. They include 150-millimeter munitions and precision-guided rockets. It came after another record overnight barrage. Ukrainian officials say Russia fired more than 700 attack and decoy drones. On trade, Haya Panjwani has the latest tariff announcement.
President Trump has singled out Brazil for import taxes of 50% for the country's treatment of its former president, Jair Bolsonaro. Trump avoided his standard form letter, specifically tying his tariffs to the trial of Bolsonaro, who's charged with trying to overturn his 2022 election loss. Trump has described Bolsonaro as a friend and hosted the former Brazilian president at his Mar-a-Lago resort when both were in power in 2020. During a White House meeting with African leaders, though, Trump talked up trade as a diplomatic tool.
You guys going to fight? We're not going to trade. And we seem to be quite successful in doing that.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
Trump also sent tariff letters to the leaders of 7 other nations. This is AP News. Gethin Coolbaugh reports robot umpires are set to make their in-season debut on one of baseball's biggest stages.
Major League Baseball plans to use its robot umpire technology for ball strike challenges in Tuesday's All-Star Game at Atlanta, another step toward possible regular season use next season. Teams won 52.2% of their ball strike challenges during the spring training test, with 617 of 1,182 challenges successful in the 288 exhibition games using the automated ball strike system. An animation of the pitch was shown on video board showing spectators the challenge results. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
A couple of day games have wrapped up. The White Sox beat the Blue Jays 2-1, while the Brewers topped the Dodgers 3-2. The Orioles and Mets rained out in Baltimore. They'll try to play 2 tomorrow. More news and the latest developments at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thank you for listening.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Partly cloudy skies tonight with a low temperature of 69 degrees and light northeast winds. Thursday, sunny with a high temperature around 78 degrees. On Friday, chance of thunderstorms with a high temperature around 89 degrees. Saturday, chance of thunderstorms with a high temperature of 86. Sunday, sunny with a high temperature around 85. Monday, chance of storms with a high temperature around 88 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 75.
Did you know? VA home loans are a key to home ownership for those who served.
I would tell anybody who is interested in getting a VA loan to just do it.
For me, the best thing about the VA loan was the simplicity of it. I was expecting, government paperwork, it was going to go on forever, and it just wasn't.
Since the down payment for a VA loan is minimal, we were able to purchase this home and then use the money that we were going to use as a down to actually fix up the home.
And the only way we could do that was because the nest egg that we had saved for the down payment, we didn't have to use because we went the VA route.
This is a wonderful benefit that veterans can take advantage of.
In the military, we make a lot of sacrifices. We're away from our family a lot. And with the VA loan, it's a way that it makes it easier for us to get a home.
To learn more about VA home loans, visit va.gov/home loans.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Hi to our friends listening on KKNW 1150 in Seattle, Washington, and our friends on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Of course, we're broadcasting here in Chicago on Heartland Signal, WCPT 820, and you can watch us live streaming anywhere in the world on Facebook. You can listen to us on YouTube. All of our shows are also available as soon as we're done as individual podcasts. You can go to heartlandsignal.com. There's also featured interviews there, so go ahead and check out our website. All of these conversations are, of course, made possible by our sponsors. Go to source.solar and check in with our friends from Source Solar. Maybe make an appointment, see if it's time for you to get solar panels on your house or your business, and join thousands of customers in the Chicagoland area who are happy with their services. We also want to thank our friend Kirk Bangstead at Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to minocquabrewingcompany.com or follow his adventures on Facebook. We'll be catching up with him soon to find out about his time in jail because he and 5 of his patrons were arrested on his property for apparently antagonizing the very powerful MAGA in their community, and that more details to come in the days to come. We also want to thank our friends, our new sponsor, Pride Coffee Roasters. Go to pridecoffeeroasters.com. You can they brew their coffee with pride, and you can drink your coffee with pride. You can find them at great upcoming events, including our very own Jefferson Park Sunday Market, where I will be this Sunday, July 13th. That's from 9:30 to 1:30 over there at 4822 North Long. They'll also be at the Edgewater Monday Market, Monday, July. Oh, that was this week, so I apologize for looking backwards. Also on Sunday, if you don't want to come see me at Jefferson Park, you can see them at Independence Park Farmers Market, but check their schedule at pridecoffeeroasters.com. You can also get a bean subscription and order some of their fantastic coffee for delivery. We also want to thank our friends at Kids Above All. Go to kidsaboveall.org and support their mission to help children live happy, healthy, safe lives. We also want to thank our friend Ellie Krug for joining us again this month to share all her insight on things legal, on trans issues, enlightening us on stories that we might not be paying attention to. She's the host of the Illegal Trans Women on KTNF AM 950. Hey, Ellie, how are you doing today?
Hey, Patty, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back. I'm just absolutely ecstatic about being back.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for your kind words that you've shared in the past about having you on. But I want you to know, I just love having you as a guest. I appreciate your wisdom, and I also know how freaking hard things are right now. So we get to be sort of aggressively cheerful together, I guess, is how I tend to be.
Well, Patty, the last time you had me on was to talk about the Scarametti decision that the Supreme Court issued on the third week of June, where it ruled that the state of Tennessee could ban gender-affirming care for transgender youth under age 18. And the Supreme Court has continued with its trans signaling because within the last week, the Supreme Court has indicated that it will accept 2 cases involving transgender athletes. So they're going to move from gender-affirming care for trans kids and youth, and now they're going to go after trans girls playing in sports from kindergarten all the way through senior year public university.
Yeah, I mean, and they've told us this the whole time, right? It has always been, it's always a clamoring about children, protect the children. You're mutilated, all these words that they've used, and then it's protect the girls, the teenage girl, the young girls in the locker rooms, and one of the things I have friends who are liberal, they're progressives. And then on this topic, they'll be like, well, you have to admit, right? They always come with, it's not fair. Like that whole thing. I'm like, oh my God, are we having this conversation? What are we talking about?
Yeah, well, the problem, I mean, and even like my best, dearest friend, okay, who I love dearly, has a problem, with this. And he and I have had multiple discussions about it and come to the point where we've just said, we're not going to talk about this any further. The thing is about trans girl athletes is that the vast majority of them are not, competing in college, high-level sports where they've taken or risk of taking away scholarships from genetic females. One of the cases that the Supreme Court has decided to hear this fall term, and which will decide a year, next June, involves a 13-year-old West Virginia transgender girl who transitioned genders in 3rd grade and has been taking puberty blockers and hormones. And she has, I mean, if you look at this, there's multiple stories about this young woman. Her name is Becky Pepper Jackson, and it's public record. And if you look at her, she looks like any other 13-year-old girl. Mm-hmm. And her specialty is track. She throws the shot put and the discus. Okay? And, if you have been on puberty blockers, you've not gone through puberty. So and then to have been on estrogen, I mean, it erases any kind of advantage. And people don't understand this, and Patti, they don't understand the significance of sports, because it's not just about competing; it's about the friendships that you form that can be lifelong.
Yes, yeah. It's team building, and I also think rather than calling things not fair or pointing to reasons why somebody shouldn't be on the team or they don't belong, I actually see it as an opportunity to teach kids another part of growing up and being around people who are different than you.
Absolutely.
Right.
No doubt. I mean, that's what teamwork is all about.
Right.
Okay. That it's all for a common cause. I mean, that friend that I told you about, that he and I can't talk about this, he and I became best friends on the 8th grade football team. Okay. Now, back then I was not, identifying as female. It was only in my head at that point. But I've become part of his family as a consequence of that friendship formed in 8th grade. So this is really way, way more than this competition thing and some claim that maybe somebody's going to get an unfair advantage. I mean, Patti, think about this, okay? If you just missed by one day getting into kindergarten, okay? When kindergarten rolls around, you are nearly a whole year older.
Yep.
And, then like the oldest kindergartner, okay? Mm-hmm. And so, in your class, do we make big deals out of that? Do we say that, by a year to more than a year, degree and maturity has some kind of unfair advantage, and that student has to in some way be, handicapped? We don't do that kind of stuff.
No.
And so this is really no different, but it is a rallying cry against transgender people. Although, I mean, if we have the time, there's a wonderful quote from Billie Jean King, the great Billie Jean King, who, broke the gender barrier in tennis and the gender barrier generally in sports. She was interviewed last week by The Telegraph in the United Kingdom about trans people participating. And this is what she had to say, quote, "I don't think people have any idea of how hard it is for trans people," King said. "Just listen to their stories. Listen, not tell them. Everyone is unique. Make them feel included because you really don't know. With every person I meet, I try to start with a blank. Ask questions. And if you weren't doing this interview, I'd be bugging you with a lot of questions," unquote. Billie Jean King, okay? Yeah. I mean, she is in her 70s, and she is telling us, okay, to just understand that being transgender is not easy. And by the way, just ask for our stories, because when you ask for our stories, you will find that they are very common with your story. They are. How many people listening right now have friends from middle school or high school sports that they're still in touch with? Well, guess what? As I just said, I have that going. And thank God I have him in my life, notwithstanding this disagreement we have about sports.
Right. Well, tell us a little bit of your story that you'd like to share with our audience that might not have heard our conversations before. What would you like to share with them about your experiences? Because I think that we've talked to you. I sometimes assume that people know that you're a lawyer, you're a radio host, you teach people about trans issues. What would you like to share about your story?
So, Patty, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, when gay and lesbian people were really not publicly visible, and when, the idea that your brain couldn't match your body and you could do something about it, I mean, that was just so very difficult. I ended up falling in love with a girl. She was my soulmate, and for 40 years, I suppressed thoughts in my head about being female. I also had same-sex attractions. I suppressed all of that, thinking that I could choose to stay a man because I loved my wife and had two beautiful daughters. I loved them so very much, and I knew that coming out as who I truly was would just pretty much destroy everything. What I didn't count on was 9/11, and I didn't count on understanding on the night of 9/11 that someday I would lay on my deathbed and I would look back at my life and hate myself for not having been braver to be the true me. And so when 9/11, after that happened, I eventually started down the process of leaving my wife, which was very difficult. She did not want to be married to a woman, and I understood that. And then transitioning genders to the point where I became the first lawyer in Iowa in 2009 to ever transition genders. I lost my law firm as a result. I moved to the Twin Cities to start all over again and wrote a book about coming out. And, Patty, I'm just thrilled to announce that the second installment of my memoir series is just about to be launched. That book is titled Being Ellen, A Second Chance at Life. And we are literally days away from that book being on Amazon. So I am just thrilled. So, and that book is about what's it like to live for a decade and a half as a woman after you lived more than 50 years as a man, and all the challenges that come with trying to live authentically. And you have a sense, as you and I have in common, we both want to make the world better.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you for sharing your story, and congratulations on the second installment. And I think that, what you've gone through, is the Congresswoman, is it Sarah McBride is her name?
Yep, Sarah McBride.
A couple weeks ago, talked about, when we feel like everything is lost, she thinks about, when people were, so massive numbers of people were enslaved. And when we, while we were in World War II and what we were going through and look, it's
internment camps.
Yeah, internment camps and everything, the atrocities that were being carried out around the world, and all the fights during civil rights. She thinks about the struggles humanity has gone through over and over again, and she came out of it with with wanting to have a positive take on things, and it is a reminder that people do struggle, they do suffer, and they do thrive, as you are demonstrating, and I love that.
Well, thank you. I mean, I've been very lucky because I have people in my life who support me and, who are there for me, and wonderful female allyship. And this book is, filled with stories about how people have been good to me and have come through for me in a variety of ways. So, no, I'm very lucky, and thank you for asking about the story. I'm always, kind of reluctant about speaking about it because I don't want to push myself on people. And but I think that the reality is that there are far more transgender people than anybody knows, far, far more. And the reality also is that the vast majority of people, when they get to know somebody who's transgender, they come to realize that transgender person really is no different from them, that they want the same things in life, and that they've got the same struggles and challenges that many people have.
Absolutely, and that's what's so exhausting, and yet we can't let ourselves be exhausted. It is you have to keep showing up for each other, and for those who are the targets in particular. I'm so sorry that there are so many cruel people. I mean, I don't know. I'm not apologizing. I want to apologize on behalf of so many people, but I know you've been through so much that it feels trite to say I'm so sorry. So mostly, I want to say thank you is what I want to say.
Well, I appreciate that, Patti, and I appreciate how, you're such an ally of mine and how you're supporting my work and allowing me to speak to, all of your audience, because I'm trying to get this voice out because it's a voice of compassion and kindness. Those are my hallmarks of my work now as a woman, and about trying to bridge differences, about going. I mean, even Billie Jean King talked about the need to go and speak to people who have different views than you, about the need, because in this article, she says at the end, you never know how one person is going to impact another person's life. Muhammad Ali and I used to talk about this a lot. If you don't engage, things will stay the same, unquote.
Oh, it's so important.
So my work, it is. And my work, it is. My work is about engagement. It is about trying to push the envelope, not about, pushing ideology, because what my ideology is about compassion and kindness for all humans. That is my ideology. And that if we can show that to each other, if we can allow the human heart, which I believe 98% of all humans have good empathetic hearts. I know that's, people are like, oh, I can't believe that. But no, I've seen this, okay? And I just believe that if you allow those hearts to be seen, that we can get past pretty much everything.
Agreed. And by the way, a listener texted, testify, Ellie, testify. So you're connecting with folks, and I'm so glad that we can make this happen. And please don't hesitate to reach out anytime. I know we check in every month, but as you did previously with the Supreme Court decision, don't hesitate if something comes up that you want to join us and talk about.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I just, thanks again for having me, and I'll talk to you in August.
Absolutely. And folks can check out the Illegal Trans Woman on am950radio.com. That's am950radio.com. And you can listen to, and all of our friends at KTNF. Have a great evening, and I'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
Okay, thanks, Patti. Take care. You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Let's take a break here. Let's open up the phone lines, Henry, because we haven't had the phone lines open the whole show, and I know folks want to call in. 773-763-9278. That's the number to call or text on the Credo Mobile phone and text line. Credo Mobile, a company that's better for the planet and people. CredoMobile.com.
If you're purchasing a new home or refinancing your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Corey called to consolidate his debt and was so happy with my advice, he left me this 5-star Google review. Quote, I was looking to pay off debt, so I reached out to David after listening to his radio show. David called me personally and walked me through my options. He shot it straight. There was no beating around the bush or pushing me to sign anything. If any of my family or friends need anything related to a mortgage, I'll give them David's number because you can't get better or more honest service. Thanks, Corey. I strongly encourage everyone to check out our close to 600 5-star Google reviews from listeners like Corey. Team Hochberg helped Corey and thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, MLS 1124061.
Hey, Chicago. Hal Sparks is coming back to Chicago for a live show on Saturday, July 12th. He'll be back at Max and Benny's in Northbrook. The Hal Sparks Radio Program, mega worldwide, airs Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Guess what? Johnny Million will join him, but most of all, he wants to talk with you about everything going on right now. Tickets are on sale at heartlandsignal.com/WCPT820. Get yours now before they're gone. This remote broadcast is made possible by Max and Benny's Restaurant, Deli, and Bakery.
Is credit card or other debt making it difficult to pay your rent or mortgage? Home insecurity is often the unintended consequence of an inability to pay mounting credit card debt, student loans, or medical debt. But by working with a nonprofit credit counselor, you can avoid or reduce the risk of eviction or foreclosure while tackling debt for good. For more information about how nonprofit credit counseling can help, visit nfcc.org. Made possible in part by the nonprofit Wells Fargo Foundation.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to check in with our friends Ford Miller and Dr. Suzana Flores. He's a legal expert. She's a psychologist, and we're going to talk about some issues that are in the news right now and how it's affecting people. Jim in Chicago, thank you for being patient. How you doing, Jim? What's on your mind?
Hi, Patty. The man who identifies in New York as social democrat, would they be more comfortable a social scientist called a capitalist scientist or a social worker, a capitalist worker? Would that make people more?
Look,
but Patty, we've had social mayors, social democrat mayors. It's got to be, I don't know how many, but there's plenty of them.
Yeah.
And when you think about what our we had the monarchy, then we had. Capitalism, fascism, communism, and it's 2025, and has anybody dreamt up anything that would work? That's what always puzzles me. Why have a category that apparently doesn't work? That's what puzzles me. Any suggestions, Patty? What would the next economic malaise, whatever would be?
Yeah.
Any suggestions, Patty?
No, I don't have any suggestions. I will say, I over 10 years ago, I told a friend of mine who is in City Hall. He's an alderman and he's a social democrat. And I told him, I said, a democratic socialist. What are we using? Democratic socialist, right? Here's what I wish.
It's just another category.
Yeah, but here's what I wish. I mean, I think the Democrats, for the most part, want to embrace a lot of the ideals of that. Make sure that that the government is working to help people. That the investments that we make through our taxes are being put to the welfare. Literally, in our state constitution and our federal constitution is the safety and welfare of all of our citizens. And I wish they would just call themselves Democrats and do the socialist Democrat things, because people are never going to get past the word socialism. ever. Do you know what I mean?
If Joe Biden had to say on several occasions, I'm a capitalist, meaning that the Democrats tend to be socialist. But these are just terms, Patty, that don't mean anything.
Yeah, but the people who are limited in their curiosity and thinking can't get past the word socialism. So we're not socialists. I am a Democrat. I'm actually an FDR Democrat. How's that? So,
so am I. So, but the point is, he had social workers. I've already mentioned this. He had social workers in his cabinet, which was a pragmatic solution when things were desperate. Because Perkins was a social worker, and she came up with all the goodies about minimum wage. We don't go into it. All these things exist today.
Yeah, because of the work that they did.
But to categorize somebody that way is nuts. And I just hope that guy wins. And you have a great show, Patty. Thank you much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Let's get to Paul in Seattle. How you doing, Paul? What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, a lot of things, but the part I have to talk about, I was listening to you talking with Hal about the Epstein files.
Yes.
And so this is what I have to get off my chest. Yes, there is reasonable doubt at this point as to what happened to Jeffrey Epstein while he was in jail.
Right.
But reasonable doubt is because we don't have the Epstein files. I know it was right on her desk, but it's not worth talking about now. If we had the facts, I think we would recognize that, first of all, people can't kill themselves in jail. Anytime somebody dies in jail, that is a real funky deal. Somebody did it. Because you go to jail, they just put you in a room. Unless you're going to smash your head against the wall, and that would be plainly obvious as to how you died, you don't just find a way to off yourself. So the only thing, is there any doubt, really? How much doubt is in people's mind about who had the power to have Jeffrey Epstein off?
Right.
Like, say, the power of the presidency of the United States. And would the president of the United States do that in August of 2019, thinking that, if this comes out, like Hal said, there's no offing this, there's no getting rid of this one. Have we seen that Donald Trump is actually against, having people exercise their right to due process? And if Jeffrey Epstein were to try and kind of split a deal with prosecution that, talk about who else has been involved and I'm going to get some bigger people here, well, I tell you what, I'm not buying it. And everyone knows what I'm alluding to because I'm not alluding very well. I'm just saying it straight out.
I will never get over the fact that I ever had to think about Jeffrey Epstein at all. And he also, however, is a reminder that there are awful people in this world who put people in these situations where they are victimized, where they are assaulted, where they are trafficked, where they and the fact that it's just been this salacious story for over a decade, and it seems to be connected at the upper levels of power is absolutely disgusting.
That's what we're seeing. Yeah. That's what we're seeing Trump do now.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Traffic people, and so I wondered. It occurred to me is that you think, why do the Republicans do this awful thing? Who are they afraid of? No, they're not afraid of the MAGA militia. They think that if he would do that to Jeffrey Epstein, he'd do it to them. He'd have it done to them, too.
Yep. Thank you for your call, Paul, and for sharing this conversation with me. Have a good night, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yep.
Thanks. When we come back, we'll talk to Dr. Suzana Flores and Ford Miller. We're talking law and mental health. We'll do all the things. It's a lot going on. They go together very well. More in a moment on WCPT, KKNW, and KTNF.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
A I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Partly cloudy skies tonight with a low temperature of 69 degrees and light northeast winds. Thursday, sunny with a high temperature around 78 degrees. On Friday, chance of thunderstorms with a high temperature around 89 degrees. Saturday, chance of thunderstorms with a high temperature of 86. Sunday, sunny with a high temperature around 85. Monday, chance of storms with a high temperature around 88 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 75.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Studies show most parents say they've talked with their teen about drugs, but half have not brought up the subject of inhalants. And today there are about 1 million new users. Dr. Wesley Clark of the Center for Substance Abuse Treatment.
There are over 1,000 products wherever industrial solvents or aerosols are used. Now, these were never conceived of as a form of, quote, recreation or experimentation. So it's not the products we're concerned about, it's the information that if parents don't talk to their children, then peer pressure results, and then they start trying it, huffing or sniffing, and then we get long-term medical consequences.
Parents must be aware of missing household aerosol products, chemical smells on kids' clothes or breath, or a dazed or dizzy kid. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
As a veteran, you get a lot of advice, but wisdom's harder to come by. A lot of people imagine themselves in our shoes without understanding the weight on our shoulders. The truth is, few can understand the pressure of finding your own way after serving in the military. But few isn't none. Steady yourself. You're not alone. You've got support. Learn more at maketheconnection.net.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. I have a big surprise for everybody. Auntie Sherry did buy 10 tickets for Hal Sparks show this Saturday at Max and Benny's in Northbrook, and she wants to give them to you. So I have a pair of tickets to give away. Henry, show me the number of fingers for the number of callers that you would like me to pick as the winner. Caller number 2, 773-763-9278. If you're caller number 2, you win a pair of tickets on behalf of Auntie Sherry, who loves you and loves the work that Hal Sparks does and everything we do here at WCPT. Thank you, Auntie Sherry. And she's in Vegas, so she can't make it to the show, so she is gifting them to you. This is why I love our listeners. 773-763-9278 on the Credo Mobile phone line to pick up your pair of tickets if you are caller number 2. Now, callers number 11 and 12 don't win anything, and I'm very sorry about that to my friends, Dr. Suzana Flores and Ford Miller. Dr. Suzana Flores is a psychologist. She's an author. You can go to NOLA-wellness.org and learn more about the great work that she does. We are so excited to talk to both of them. Hold on, let me get I want to say all the great things about my friends that are on the line right now. She's a highly regarded licensed psychologist, clinical psychologist, accomplished author, and engaging public speaker with a profound dedication to understanding the intersection of social media and mental health, amongst other things that we'll talk about throughout this conversation. Ford Miller is a legal expert. He's a teacher and librarian with over 20 years of experience working in law schools. His scholarly work involves constitutional law, corporation law, and corporate governance law. Let me start with Dr. Flores, everybody. Dr. Flores, I'm not okay. How are you doing?
I am certainly not okay. Okay, good talk.
Yes. All right, thank you. I don't know how to get through all of this anymore. Okay, let me ask you this, Doc, because we're going to get into what's going on with federal employees, with some decisions at the Supreme Court, sort of the fallout that we're seeing with people's mental health, and how it's going to reverberate throughout our communities. I know that we, how do you pace yourself? Because I've spent time with you, and is it compartmentalizing? Is it going for a walk with your dogs? Like what grounds you to show up again?
what grounds me? I'm going to start off by saying I live in New Orleans in the French Quarter. So, there may be some beverages at certain times. I'm just kidding, but kidding, not kidding. Like to kind of help with the stress. Yes, walking the dog, trying to stay off the news as much as possible. I'm going to get to that in a second. Just resting and relaxing and enjoying my friends is probably my friends and family is the way to cope.
And now everyone knows that Suzi is the one that I spend my time with in New Orleans. And Ford as well. Ford, to Suzi's point about staying away from the news, this is something that you have kind of leaned into. Tell us a little bit about what you do to keep yourself level-headed as much as possible.
I recall my youth in the 1980s when we had nuclear war and the AIDS crisis. So, it's just like, top of the course, I'm sorry.
Fair.
I dance. I make art.
Yep.
I spend time with my friends.
Yeah.
I remember all the things that are important in my life, and I also remember the importance of resistance. And that you can't resist well if you're not well.
Yes, that's such a great point. Yeah, Dr. Flores. So I think that's something that we need to address. I know that you're working with a lot of folks who are being directly impacted by what's happening from this president's administration. What do you want to share with folks as far as, because there were these mass firings. There's this basically we're restructuring the government. We'll talk to Ford about that in a moment too. But what do you want to share with folks as far as how it's impacting mental health and maybe we're not paying attention how it's actually impacting all of us?
Well, I want to start off by saying, one of, I don't want to call it a rule, but a guideline that we really try to abide by in therapy is, we don't talk about politics, right? Because if we do that, it can affect the way that we see our client. It affects the way the client sees us. Additionally, we just kind of say, look, no matter what side you're on, it's really hard right now. And so it's important to, not watch the news. Now, yes, you have to be informed, but really kind of reduce your exposure to the news. And if you must, maybe at the evening in just about 5 minutes. Now, that piece of advice has kind of just gone out of the window because it is getting more and more difficult to not be aware of everything that is happening and to get affected. Additionally, what some clients will say is well, this isn't just we're not talking about politics. This is my life. This is affecting me. And so, of course, we have to talk about it. In terms of what's happening to federal employees, I am seeing several that have been impacted from both sides of the political spectrum. And so, some would, on one side, definitely were informed about what's about to happen, and some on the Republican side tend to not be as informed about what was going to happen, or they were not aware that it was going to happen to them, I'll just say it that way, or, in the way that it was happening. And so people are overworked. They've lost half of their staff or more. They're taking on all of this. Their accessibility to retire early is going away. And so people are pushed to the max. And I've noticed a trend that I've never seen before in that federal employees usually want to stay as long as they can to get the pension. They worked for it, and other benefits, obviously, right? But what I'm seeing lately is okay, I need to get out of here. I don't care if I lose the pension. I don't care if I do this. I just cannot handle it. And one person I know of, despite me, I'm meditating. I'm listening to gospel music. I'm going for long walks. I'm taking warm Epsom salt baths. I am doing anything and everything to relax and decompress during the night. And what I keep hearing is it's not working because it's everywhere, especially if you're working in that kind of environment. And to add to that, you don't even know if you're going to keep the job that's really stressing you out. And so what ends up happening is people develop what's called complex PTSD, which is prolonged distress. So it is traumatizing.
Oh man, it just has to be so destabilizing emotionally, and you worry about your future and things like that. And it seems like it's going to expand. Ford. So the Supreme Court, there was a lower court ruling, right, that had slowed down the Trump's administration's efforts. This is under OMB, Russell Voigt, and Doge. They were raiding all these federal agencies, slashing payroll. They wanted to get rid of employees. They wanted to buy people out. But there was a lower court ruling that was trying to slow down these efforts to implement mass firings of federal employees because it had no regard for congressional prerogatives and no justification other than wanting to pare down the public sector. But the Supreme Court reversed that. What is your? Have you been able to read enough on this and sort of get a handle on, why they decided to uphold an executive order when it seems like Congress should have a role in this? Or is that? I don't know how to ask this question. This is tough stuff, Ford. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I know. No, here.
Yes, help me.
We're actually at the. I wish I could.
Fair.
But what I mean by that is that there's a lot of the current Supreme Court is doing two things that are absolutely outrageous, and they are unfortunately long-standing practices. And we saw an example. Guess what? There was a major Supreme Court decision that happened yesterday. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I feel like I heard something. So many things were happening. What happened yesterday?
That's right. And keep in mind, the Supreme Court is not in session.
Oh.
And yet a major decision happened yesterday on this issue. On this issue. The reason what happened is that there's been this order, and it's been going through where the administration has tasked all federal agencies to start preparing, essentially start preparing for how we're going to downsize you.
Oh, God.
Who are you going to keep?
How we're going to downsize what?
How we're going to they're going to all the departments and saying, yes, tell us how we are going to downsize you. Prepare for dealing with, and and this has been both at the district court level and the appellate court level blocked with what's called temporary restraining orders because TROs work to keep the status quo in place so that during litigation, because, if there's irreparable harm, that creates problems, you want to stop it. And you certainly at least want to have it litigated before those irreparable harms get triggered. And the Supreme Court just sort of said, no, we think the administration, the executive branch, should just go ahead and keep doing this. The same way they said they should. Oh yeah, they should just drop birthright citizenship. Until we've actually figured out whether or not they can.
Right.
Right. And so on the first hand, they're completely ignoring the purpose, and also. A lot of TROs are decided at the district court level because it's the district court that makes all the findings of facts that say this is why we're doing something, and the upper courts are only supposed to decide issues of law. And Justice Jackson just tore the justices a new one yesterday for why are we stepping in and getting involved in litigation and essentially deciding the issue. When we don't need to. And then the second thing that's happening, and this happened on something that's called the emergency docket. And the emergency docket is supposed to be used for emergencies, but the Supreme Court in both Trump administrations has used the emergency docket in order to make major decisions, some of which overturn decades-old precedents without a hearing, without briefs, and without a decision. They just say, never mind. They just hide it under the table. Wow. I mean, it's and all of these things That's just the procedural thing. Remember how Todd and I were talking about due process a couple of weeks ago, back in May?
Yep.
This is due process being undermined.
Oh, man. We're talking to legal expert Ford Miller and clinical psychologist Dr. Suzana Flores. I assume you're good with staying for another segment? We never settled on
We never.
Absolutely. All right. We'll continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT 820, KKNW 1150, and KTNF AM 950. Thank you for hanging out with us. You can text us at 773-763-9278 on the Credo Mobile text line. Credo Mobile, a better company for the planet and people. CredoMobile.com.
Dive deeper into the heart of the news and stories at WCPT 820 and across the Midwest by checking out our website, heartlandsignal.com.
It's the coverage I can count on every time.
For the latest news updates, in-depth analysis, compelling stories, comprehensive election coverage, live streams, and thought-provoking opinions, head to heartlandsignal.com.
When I need to know, they're there.
They keep me informed and updated wherever I am.
Stay informed with WCPT 820, your go-to source for where facts matter.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In 1939, when Europe was on the brink of war, a single mother was bringing Jewish refugees into her home, teaching her 2 daughters to help others when you can and fight injustice. Freddie and Charles Offerstegen took their mother's advice to heart, joining their mother in distributing anti-Nazi newspapers and pamphlets for the resistance, a dangerous act when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. But with the girls being young, Freddie being only 14 and Charles being only 16, Nazis were less likely to suspect them to be working for the resistance. This is most likely why in 1941, a commander of the Haarlem resistance group to ask their mother if he could recruit Freddie and Truss. Their mother and the girls agreed and were given basic training, and within 2 years the girls were bringing Jewish refugees into hiding, working in emergency hospitals, sabotaging bridges and railway lines, and killing Nazis, sometimes ambushing them from their bicycles. Despite the Netherlands not wanting to acknowledge the girls' achievements, their contributions to helping the Allied powers will never be unnoticed.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
And we are driving it home with legal expert Ford Miller and clinical psychologist Dr. Suzana Flores. Thank you both so much for sharing your expertise with our audience. We've been talking, Dr. Suzana Flores, about the sort of uncertainty ahead of us with the Supreme Court making some very wide, decisions that are going to really impact our daily lives. How can folks manage, the fear of the unknown? I think that's what we're all having, right? Is like, how bad can this get? And like trying to imagine how bad it is can be paralyzing, can't it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I feel like I'm speaking about this the way that I speak about like coping with COVID. Right. Yeah. Or any it was like, okay, it's affecting many people, like even globally, and we don't have a lot of control, if any control. And so the only thing that we can really focus on is ourselves. And so, me saying, don't, try not to watch the news, that, as mentioned, has gone out the window, like it's everywhere. And so, what Ford said, I definitely agree. It's like, you go dancing, you go with your friends, you use distraction as much as possible. If you have a career goal, then you practice like laser-like precision to just focus on your career goals. And you're like, okay, can I control whatever's happening right now? It's like, no, I can't do it right now. Or even noticing and just kind of putting it aside. It's like, I have to focus on me and my family, but also even noticing, listening to the body. Like if you feel like your chest is tightening, right? We receive messages from the body as well, and that's the body's way of saying, like, okay, you just need to take a deep breath, right? And you just need to just close your eyes, some deep breathing, just even if it's 5 minutes, right? Just a self-care for you, whatever it is that you need, warm bath, a nice cup of tea, hanging out with friends, whatever one can do, whatever you used to cope with other situations, now you're going to have to do it more often. Right, but
yeah.
well, it's the reality, right? You're going to have to do it more often. and also seeking support from friends, but maybe with the rule of like, okay, we get to vent about this for a certain amount of minutes, but then like let's talk about something else, right? Let's talk about our lives. What's happening in our lives? Like, tell me something good that happened this week. Those are examples of coping.
Yeah, I find the motivation to be the hard part. Like working out, I just can't get motivated to do it. Like I was like Ford was mentioning that he goes running because otherwise, he can't enjoy New Orleans the way he gets to enjoy it. So Ford, how do you stay motivated to go running? Do you go every day?
Remember, I'm a dancer.
Right. Which also helps with the staying in shape, yes.
Yes, it does, and so forth. But the reason I stay motivated is because I find joy in it.
Okay. Find the joy.
I mean, it works. For me, moving my body, and also, especially because like dance classes are, the studios I go to, we talk before and we talk after and we talk during. And it goes back to Suzi's point. Connection is everything. Connection in that sense that you're not in it alone by yourselves, and that there are other people who are in it with you and for you.
Well, that brings up a question that just you sparked an idea for me, Dr. Flores. Because I'm having one of those days where I kind of hit a wall, and I know we have to keep the fight, keep calling attention to things, keep highlighting the atrocities. You sent me a link to. I opened the show talking about the Chicago Puerto Rican Arts and Cultural Museum, where agents were swarming the parking lot, and
entering.
Yeah, they entered under the auspices. They entered under the auspices of I have to use the bathroom, and then they came out talking about upcoming festivals and things like that. And so I feel like my body kind of shutting down a little bit, going, okay, it's coming, is what I kind of am feeling. But to the point of finding the joy and being there for, we have to do that in order to keep the protests up, because there is no not just protesting, but showing up for each other, right? That's part of also why we need to take care of ourselves, isn't it?
It really is. I've said the same before, like, especially in NOLA in New Orleans, right? We don't isolate, we celebrate, and we do that together. And there is strength in numbers, and reminding, those that we love around us, like even those, of marginalized groups that are being oppressed right now. It's like, look, you have an ally. You have an army of allies. You are not alone. Yeah. And we're going to do this together. We're going to get through this somehow. We're going to get through it together.
We are. However, the legal aspects of this, Ford, are certainly overwhelming, right? When you talk about what the Supreme Court is doing and what we're seeing happen on streets across America, in parks, as these ICE agents, these guys like LARPing as ICE agents. I don't even know where to begin. A lot of people want to know where is the legal aspect of this? Why can't the cities say, hey, we're not cooperating? We're a sanctuary city. I don't know how ICE can come in and have any authority. Do you have any thoughts on that, Ford, as far as like this sort of back and
Unfortunately, I have the answer, which is the Constitution divided government powers between the states and the federal government. And the cities, municipalities are part of state government. And immigration is solidly and solely under the control of the federal government. And through something called the Supremacy Clause, you can a municipality can claim they're a sanctuary city all they want to, but it gets down to the fact that ultimately the only thing the city can do to keep ICE agents, it can't keep ICE agents out. It can only do things like order their police departments not to provide any assistance whatsoever in any federal action, and things along those lines. But yeah, no, that's one of the things I think I've talked before that's particular. ICE has been, the MAGA forces have manipulated the law to such a degree that ICE can really just sort of go anywhere and do anything as long as they have some connection with being immigration related, which is, of course, also one of the things that's hilarious. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, you interrupt. Well, I was just going to ask, aren't they obligated to show some sort of identification?
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, one of the actions of resistance that you can do, I can't remember, you can do, it's like if an agent comes, if somebody's coming in with a mask on and saying you're talking about the LARPers. If somebody comes in with a mask on and a uniform saying they're ICE, because remember, you've got every right to say, oh, well, how do I know you're ICE? And, and then can't you see the badge? And it's just like, I don't see any photo identification. Be sure to twist the knife on the photo identification because all voting rights stuff and so forth. Mm-hmm. And, they'll have to pull it out and and they'll have to, and if they don't do that, then you can, call the cops and say, I've got these LARPers here who say they're ICE and they're not showing me ID. But ultimately, again, you got to be polite. You can't do anything like touch them or actively resist them. Physically resist them. You can sort of sit down, otherwise they're going to have they're going to have cause to haul you away.
Yeah, because there are some people that are impersonating them and they're kidnapping people. Like they might be more, I don't know, like bounty hunters or so. Like I've seen some things like that.
Well, keep in mind the Michigan politicians that were killed last month were killed by a guy in Minnesota. A police uniform.
Yeah. I mean, in Minnesota, that was it cuts to the heart of exactly what the fears are. I think for so many of us, I know we're gonna have more conversations like this, and I'm grateful for your insight. Any last thoughts, Dr. Flores, on how we can take care of ourselves, or what you want to share with us, or any perspective you want to share?
Remembering that we are very resilient.
Yes.
Remembering, like who we are, what we're made of, and realizing, like during these times, it's like, the essence of a person is like, your ability to stand up for yourself and to defend others and to speak your voice. And so our voice is the most important instrument that we have against injustice.
I love that. And Ford, last night, I think one of the times we talked, I said I was terrified. I've moved past that. I've worked through it. I'm just tired. I'm a little tired. And a lot of people will say, I soak in your liberal tears, and I offer them my sweaty gym shoes. I don't run as much as you do, Ford. But if that's their kink, they can have my sweaty gym shoes if they like something salty. I want to thank you both so much.
Oh, man.
I want to thank you both so much. And Dr. Flores, that's for NOLA Wellness, right? It's NOLA-wellness.org?
Correct.
Excellent. So folks can find out more about the work that she does. And maybe it's time for
correction.net.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you so much. That's NOLA-wellness.net.
Wellness. Yeah.
And thank you both. Thank you, Ford Miller, our legal expert, and Dr. Flores. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you again soon. I have to run. I'm running out of time. Thank you.
We did talk about. You are.
Thank you.
Watching the clock.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you to our sponsors, Pride Coffee Roasters, Minocqua Brewing Company, Source Solar, and our friends at Kids Above All. Thank you, KTNF AM 950, KKNW 1150, and WCPT. Thank you, Henry. Bye, everybody. Sorry I'm late.